quick background. I'm at continue.
Hello. Hello.
No, it just asked me to. So I'm at the University of Johannesburg in South Africa, in the engineering faculty. So I decided to talk about supervision and for postgraduate specific doctoral students. I think that's a worldwide challenge in terms of completion specifically. So the first part of the talk will be about a survey that we did and a publication. I can share all the publications if you're interested in the successful completion of PhD students. So the talk is about I'll quickly give you a quick overview of the school and then the factors of successful completion. Those are, some of them are definitely not new, but it's good to have it in our mind when we supervise students and when you do a doctorate. Then I will cover some examples of students that completed. So this year, last year was the 25th anniversary, so it's a long program, and it's the fifth school engineering faculty. We do not offer in the school specifically undergraduate, but we offer master students. Typically, they need to at least have 2 years experience. What they then do, it's 6 modules. It's typical of a program like this. They do introduction to engineering management, engineering economics, and system engineering. That's our first semester that typically starts in February, runs until June. The second semester, July till November, and those subjects are development and marketing and project management. We thought those are the, let's say, at least the 6 pillars. We don't have, I call it the luxury to offer more because of the staff complement, so there's no electives. In the second year, they do a dissertation. We also, a student can do a research-based master's, but they need experience for that. So we don't have a lot of students in that program. PhD students, we have about 100 students in the program, and masters about 350. What we do in terms of our delivery for our master students, and a lot of them do a doctorate. That's why it's probably good to have a background on that. The modules are presented by people from industry. Yes, we in the school take responsibility for the program, for the content, and we assist, but it's from industry. So that's just a short background of the school. I also supervise students. We have a school of electrical engineering, school of mechanical, and then chemical, civil and the built environment, and also. So we also get staff in the faculty. There's about 9,000 students in total in the faculty, mostly undergraduate. We're part of the Washington Accord for our accreditation of our engineering programs. So staff help, and I also assist in supervision in electrical engineering because that's where I originally worked for. So this specific talk in the first part is about a survey that we did. Now, the we is myself and a colleague from Pretoria University who've supervised students, and we've supervised and co-supervised a lot of students jointly as supervisor and co-supervisor. So the sample, this was a year and a half ago, the sample population then was 94 students. We've sent the survey to 35 doctoral students, we received 31 responses in time. We eventually received all of them, but that was not in time. And that's what one would say. We've used a convenient sampling. It's not a random one. It was because we had the email addresses of the student. So what we ask the students are typical questions that one would probably want to know from your students. What do you value? Now, just to say, these students that we've surveyed are all students that have completed. They've not dropped out, and they're not in the system. So they're successful. So these are typical questions that we asked. What did your supervisor do to encourage you, and so forth? Last one, what difficulties did you experience? What hindered your progress? And I think at the end, looking back, students were very honest and open, because they out of the system. They can tell you what was their challenges for their study. Then we also had the last couple of questions, a 5-point Likert scale. It's to do with the relationship between the supervisors and the co-supervisor, relationship between the student and the supervisor. Lastly, there was a set of questions for the supervisors. In other words, I've completed this set, and my colleague from Pretoria University, we're not family, although we have the same surname. We've established this a long time ago. My colleague Leon Pretoria started this program in the 90s at the then Rand Afrikaans University, but he's now in Pretoria. So for us, the questions was, what competencies do we see is needed for students? What skills and attributes hamper success? So I'll quickly cover some of the results. This is just the ones that we received to show the years of experience before commencing with a doctoral. So what can happen, a student after completing school in South Africa, he can do a bachelor, or in engineering, a 4-year bachelor degree. That's then what we call a professional degree. After that 4 years, he can do a master's. If he's a bright student, he can generally do it in 1 year, but let's say typically 2 years. After that, he can pursue a PhD. Here we see that the students that we've supervised successfully were mostly mature students. There were 3 students that after their masters started with a PhD. And quite a lot, I mean, predominantly 11 to 15 years, 16 to 21 years. So these are mature students. And I think it's important for supervisors to also understand what I call the toolbox of the student that you supervise. In other words, they are not the same. They can come from different universities. That toolbox can mean there can be a lot of mathematics in his toolbox, but sometimes the mathematics are not his exact strong point. If you supervise, of course, students that you know from your own university, it's relatively easy. You know what's in their toolbox, if I can call it that. So it's important to have that. So this was just the percentages. It was open-ended questions. So what did they value? The communication, quick feedback, discussions, being available. I think we all know it's very frustrating for a student if he sent you an email and one ignores the email, if I can call it that. That's why I always tell my students, you have to see your PhD as a project. You need to project management your supervisor also. And different cultures is not always that easy. We have different cultures, and I'm sure we're not unique in South Africa to that. If out of respect, you will not tell your supervisor, gee, I'm waiting for you. But I think it's important. I use the example that students, if you work in industry and your boss asks you to get a quotation, you cannot just tell him, I've sent an email and you haven't responded. So students have the right to get quick feedback. Now, quick feedback is relative. Sometimes the topic is challenging. So what they also value is experience, the knowledge of the supervisor. The third one is the autonomy, freedom, flexible. In other words, I'm talking about the supervisor, but for a PhD, I personally prefer the word what they use in the US more, as far as I'm aware, is an advisor. A supervisor is really, in the English dictionary in my head, I'm really looking over your shoulder. So this was the important 4 topics. What was interesting, though, to me and Prof. Leon, it's understanding the topic, the field of study. I would thought that's the first one that the student wants from his PhD supervisor, that he understands the topic. But that only came 5th if we look at the percentages. What did your supervisor do to encourage you in your work? I think that's the same feedback there. And I've just demonstrated that about 70% feel that feedback, support, motivation, and experience is important. Yeah, that's that one. What skills and competencies do you believe are necessary for the student to complete? They, of course, need to understand the research knowledge, the research method, the protocols. I will, in my later, just talk about the research method and understanding the method that you're busy with. Of course, self-driven. You must be driven like a project. Work experience, knowledge in the field. It's also a bit strange to me that that's not, I think it ties up with the research knowledge, the methods and the protocols. Communication, language skills, I think that's also important, but it's not the most important. We know, I've said to students, and we're not in our student cohort, I think probably 10% or 20% is English first speaking citizens. So English is not their first language. Let me rephrase that necessarily. But I said we know there are really lots of assistants to help you with writing, as long as you write things yourself, not from somebody else. And I'll touch on that later. Will highlight the first one that somebody said, student must be